So if you own a studio, or even if you are a teacher or you attend a studio and you're interested in research, we have created some surveys using the National Institute of Health's data collection forms. And we would like studios to start to integrate this into your student intake. Of course, you might not want to do this for all of your students, but especially if you're teaching more therapeutic classes, even minor ailment classes, low back pain classes. So this schedule is completely off at this point, but you can move on. So we're using Google Forms right now. Eventually, I would like to get a software where we could integrate it across all of the different studios. But basically, I have made it so that I can train you. I've created some videos if you're not familiar with how to use Google Forms, but they're already all made, and they're all validated, and they also include basic student intake questions. We can also fit it to your studio. If there's things you want to change about it, we can make those changes. So consider doing this. If you're interested in doing this, you can look up my email, contact me, or talk to me about this after, so we can start to create a very large database with many numbers of prospective data with validated research tools. I think it will be very empowering to look at physical function, depression, anxiety, fatigue, so many things we're looking at. Garth McLean has been really valuable in spreading this internationally as well, so it's not just a local effort here, but there are already studios collecting data internationally with this. So any questions with that really quickly, and then I'm going to actually transition to Lois. My name's Gwendolyn Derk. D-E-R-K, D as in Daisy. And yes, my email's grderk@gmail.com.
Thanks, I'm Kelly. This is more of a conversation starter that I'd like to just put out there. The use of the word therapy, I'm finding, is a buzzword now, especially with other types of yoga. And I'm seeing the word therapy in other studios. And you know, Iyengar yoga is just so known for therapy. And so we also have been told that we can join the International Association for Yoga Therapists. So I know that we can't technically teach therapy until we're senior 1 level. So my concern is, you know, this word, and whether we can somehow differentiate or use the word therapy and maybe change this medical or maybe RIMI type therapeutic class name for senior 1 level. Because again, if we're filling out this form that says yoga therapy and we're doing this, I would really hope that we could use that word in our classes. And to me, it could just include what we're allowed to teach, such as low back, neck, shoulders, and maybe, my question is, could that be considered therapy? And at some point, I'm interested in talking with others about this and, finding a solution or a way to work around this or work with this. So.
Thank you for saying that. I'd love to echo what Kelly just said. Coming from the medical profession and the medical community, first of all, nobody knows what Iyengar yoga is, and even if you talk to them about yoga, they have very weird ideas about what yoga is. That's why we are starting this ambassador program to educate healthcare professionals about what Iyengar yoga is and what it can do. But the whole purpose of doing that would be that they could prescribe this as a treatment or as a therapy. So that word kind of is, we need to be able to use that word in order to be communicating with this community, and if it's sort of taboo within our community, it's difficult to just even communicate. So that is something I think we need to address and figure out.
I'm just curious, some of the NIH survey data I've used is very binary and some of the demographic information. Did you expand that so we could look at our growing population and how we're serving like underserved groups, and are those like, what kind of questions do you have about demographics?
So there are, I tried to be as inclusive as I could be. I only used NIH terms for the actual research parts, not for the demographic stuff, but I would really love to get your opinion on what we use. But it's as inclusive as I could be, or as I was able to be.
I'm excited about this, but it's not obvious to me your bigger vision. Like, will you tell more about that? Is it so that we could take insurance, Will you tell the bigger vision?
So, I mean, that is my goal. I want to get Iyengar yoga covered by insurance. I feel like, I also am realistic knowing that this is going to be a career-long goal and not something that's going to happen overnight. So that's the ultimate goal, and that's what all of these pieces are moving towards. And getting people educated about, in the medical field wanting this. We've already piloted the ambassador program in Urbana, and it has been, I think, very successful for the first run. Collected data pre and post. Okay, so I'm happy to talk to you guys more about this and what we're doing. I am trying to coordinate some kind of lunch with those who were interested, who approached me after. So if you are interested in being a part of that conversation and furthering these things, please do reach out to me and find me. So Lois now Lois Steinberg is going to talk to you about mentoring. Everyone is welcome to stay, but it is maybe more applicable to the teachers who are going to be mentoring younger people to become teachers.
We have a long history, actually, of mentoring, and I would like to elaborate on that. And from RIMI, they told us they would really like us to stop what they call teacher training programs. I like to call them teacher education programs. And I know, and you know, that a lot of people now call them mentoring programs. But it's the same, in my opinion, it's the same thing. It's a teacher training program, just with a different title to kind of cover their basis, I guess. I actually personally have never had teacher training programs. I do have what I call gathers, where upper levels we gather together and we do work on things. But in my home base, my home center, I mentor my student teachers. And I don't allow them to teach until after they're certified. And I've discovered ways to really help them to become really good teachers by observing what they do, what the teachers do in Pune. And one of the things I learned was from Abi, when she would be teaching her introductory classes, how she mentored one of her student teachers who's now taken over that class, and then I happened to watch him last June with the beginners from the beginning of the year, how he's teaching now without her presence there. So I'm going to do a little performance of this. Gwen is going to be my student teacher, and so I actually have a platform, but okay, we won't move there. Gwen, can you come over here? So, what I'm going to do is, I'm the teacher, Gwen is the student teacher, and I'm on a platform, and actually Gwen is off the platform. You don't have to do this with the platform, I do. And in Pune, Abi didn't do it with the platform, because upstairs, it's like packed 30 people into this little tiny room without a platform. So it's still possible to do it. What is it? So I'm going to teach one side of a standing pose, and then I hop off the platform, and Gwen hops on and teaches the other side of it. And she has to teach how I've taught. And then we'll discuss this a little more. I'm going to have to use my own voice. I'll try to project. I go back on, she comes off, and actually I was having two student teachers, so I'd have student teachers on each side, and then I would jump off one side, that one would come on, I'd go back on, I'd jump off the other side, that one would come on. Now, in the beginning, when I started doing this, actually, yeah, that was with JR over there. And I just told him, hey, I saw Abi do this really cool thing. Do you want to try it? And he was like, sure. And at first, you need to prompt what your student teacher is saying, okay? And at first, I thought, after, I was like, that was a disaster. This is never going to work. But it worked, actually. They got used to it. One of the benefits is that the students don't even notice it's going on. Okay, they're raw beginner students. They're just working out, bending over and coming up and jumping to the other side. It's seamless. And the other benefit is that, so you're not breaking up the flow of the class, and that student teacher ends up teaching all the standing poses. And they get better actually quite fast. Now the other thing I do for mentoring is, so that happens at night, and the next morning I meet with the teachers, these just, like the 2 or 3 of us, and some of my other teachers come to join in. And some of you here have joined in, haven't you? Where am I? Yes, you've been there. And so I have a syllabus that I follow, that all my teachers follow for my beginner classes, and we go over it, what happened the night before. So we go through each and every pose. I become a student, that student teacher starts teaching us. And we go through adjusting each and every pose, what comes up. And so then, by the end of the week, they're teaching what I call an apprentice teacher class. It's $5. I tell students, you get what you pay for. And so then they then teach it, and I'm there supervising. And so then after that class, I've written everything down, I give them my feedback, we go through things, I might interrupt the class or, guide them. But basically, this student teacher is getting about 6 hours, nearly 6 hours a week of direct hands-on mentorship for teaching. That's outside of the practice and everything else. And they become better fast, actually, with that kind of experience. It's a little painful at first because they, they're stumbling in the beginning. And it's also the sessions the next morning. Everything they say, everything they do, I stop them and correct them. So it's really intense, but it's a great learning experience. So like I said, it's really hands-on teacher education, 6 hours, nearly 6 hours a week. Now the other part of this, which is not directly about mentoring, but I want to share with you, after watching the teachers in Pune, how they teach beginners, and I'll repeat again that I was there last June because I hadn't been there in June for a while, and I wanted to see how do they start from the very beginning of their classes. And they have no problem getting lots of students. In their beginner classes, you have to sign up for a year. You have to sign up for a year, not these 4 weeks or 6 weeks. They have to commit a year to be in their classes, and they retain them. And as Abi said, this method, the style of their teaching is very different than what most of us do here. They retain their students. After a month of observing, I had a friend with me. I told a colleague there, I said, after 4 weeks, because I only observed 4 weeks of these classes, my students at home are better than their beginner students. But you can see their beginner students are falling in love with yoga. That's really important. I think we really have to get away from this demo teach. And if you come and watch my beginner classes, how I teach them, you'd probably be shocked, actually. But it's how they're doing it in Pune, and I just did this little demo with Gwen. That's how you start in the beginning. You get them to move. Forget correcting them even. You just get them to move, you get them to jump, you get them to do the pose, and they're really happy. And it's fun. And most of my beginner, in fact, all of my beginner students are in their early 20s. They're in their early 20s. And it's not appropriate, I think, for middle-aged people, even though they might be fit. I do have other kinds of classes that I'm able to direct them to, but I really try to keep this fast-paced. And I think that's all I have to say because it's late and we're behind time, but maybe I can answer some of your questions.
First of all, I just really commend you for the time and attention that requires. And I know there's other senior teachers that are doing that as well, and we're all searching for that, so thank you. My question is simple, but do you also offer that for your student teachers that come and travel from out of town, like several days or a week, like you described?
Well, that's a really good question. I have teachers that travel for these 3-day teacher gathers, but they don't get that same opportunity. No. Well, okay, for introductory 1, 2, they don't really get this chance. But I have other levels of teachers who come where I get them to teach. I have this intermediate 3, I don't use levels, but anyways, an intermediate 3 class that I would put like an intermediate junior 1, 2, or 3 teacher going up for their next level to teach, and I have them write me a sequence and we go over it, and then they can teach the first hour of that class, and I give them feedback, and so yeah, there are opportunities like that.
Not only do these students have to sign up for the whole year, but they have to take 2 classes a week. And the other thing, I was there in February, and Lois just said that the students weren't as good in June as her beginning students, but by February, they were really good. And they still weren't correcting them very much. You know, they still were not stopping the class or anything, but the students were amazingly, you know, they really were more than I thought, you know, our students would be at that time. But of course, we don't get students that commit for a whole year, twice a week.
Not only that, no sticky mats, and no belts, no blocks, but at the same time, you do see the students, you know, when they're doing, the group is doing something that the whole group, there's a few people, they can't do it, they know what to do, and the teacher doesn't get their props for them and baby them. And the first time I saw this, some years ago, like not using a belt for Gomukhasana, I started telling my students, no, don't run for the belt. And a few people after the class said, you know, because I didn't use the belt, I actually caught my hands for the first time.
So I'm wondering how you integrate the skill of observing the students. Is that less important because you're not adjusting them or correcting them? Is that something that comes later? You know, you're going through the instructions. That was a hard thing for me to learn, so I'm just wondering how you integrate teaching students, how to, your student teachers, how to observe the students.
Well, a lot of that happens the very next morning when I have the teachers teach me and the other one what, you know, that syllabus for that week was. And, you know, beginners are thinking of what they're going to say. And I say, hey, you're not looking at us. You know, it's a slow, painful process, but you can get, you know, teach them the observing skills. And I teach them how to touch, first touching the feet, then the hands, and, you know, how to work your way to the core of the body when you're going to adjust. It's all learned kind of the next morning, where we go through each and everything. And I'm, you know, being one of their students as they're teaching me. And so I'm like, hey, you're not looking at me. You know, come and adjust me.
Did that answer your question? Hi, I'm Linda. One of my comments is that, to me, most of the teacher training that we go through is preparation for assessment and not focusing on teaching. And I think that that's something that we as a teaching community need to work on a lot more.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And in fact, when I have outside people coming to me for the first time, I don't allow them to do assessment style teaching. And they can't do it at first. It's a real hard habit to break. And I don't allow my student teachers to do assessment style teaching. They learn to demo, you know, I have them demo. It's not like they're never demonstrating the pose. But they're learning to teach. They're just learning to teach. And then, when it's time for them to go up for assessment, I let them do one, maybe practice assessment style, maybe they do some behind my back, I don't know. But in my mind, I feel that if you develop these teaching skills, that you should be able then to fit them into the parameter of the exam. So, oh.
I'm a big fan of slow and painful processes. And I truly loved what I saw. And you know, and then of course it's like an hour when you take your beginning classes. And you know, if we don't keep that enthusiasm, we're just only going to teach Tadasana, right? I mean, we just become so static. And I'm going to start using that. I'm going to start that right away because I just see what a value it is. Even if you think a lot of your people, maybe they're older, there's a way in which to get them to have movement. You know, and that's important too, even if they're not young. You know, they can still involve movement carefully. I create a lot of people with therapy needs, and I need them to move. I don't want them to crystallize. It's okay to give them therapy, but it's really important to recognize that this is where it kind of starts.
Okay, this made me think of something else. So sometimes when I'm training my student teachers, they're very, they're not dynamic. Okay, And can you hold the mic? But they've changed. When I asked them, instead of saying, interlock your fingers, press the knuckles out, extend the arms up, reach the arms, lift the sides of the chest, bring your arms down, change the interlock. Okay, so when I had them change, they had no choice. So interlock your fingers, extend your arms up, and take them down. Extend your arms up, down. Arms up, reach the arms up, and now keep reaching the arms, and lift your heels up, stretch up, join your ankles with something challenging as well. And when I started this, all of a sudden this dull, lifeless teacher was dynamic. You have no choice but to be dynamic. When you have to say arms up, down, you're not going to go arms up, down, arms up, down. And you can be very creative. I found really cool things, just trial and error with my own syllabus, like how to build movement into that. You had a question?
I actually have a comment. The first time that I observed the Pune style classes, I couldn't believe how the students were falling all over the place. Their poses were terrible, their legs were bent, they weren't doing anything perfect, but they were like sweating and they were so happy. So I came back to Miami and I started teaching like that, and my beginners classes were packed.
Just a comment that I think embracing therapy has sometimes hurt us. I would say that some of the other systems, whether they were better at it or not, put out this moniker of therapy. Let's try and find healthy people to teach yoga to. Because what happens is so much of the time we get the walking wounded who have been injured by other systems, and we do and can help them and address that. But at the same time, you know, maybe we say modifications for low back issues. I understand wanting medical insurance to cover some of what we do, but truly yoga therapy can be a lifelong process as a teacher that includes medical knowledge on top of, as a basis with yoga knowledge. And I just think we're always walking a fine line between presenting ourselves as therapy and also trying to teach dynamic yoga. I mean, keeping with what we're trying to do in terms of bringing younger people in.
Well, I touched on this earlier, that maybe this isn't for every center because you may not have these other classes to direct the broken people that Iyengar yoga tends to attract. We have enough of these broken people, and if they come to these kind of classes, they're going to go. So you have to have, and I actually kick them out in a sense. I don't kick them out, I just say, hey, I think this is a better fit for you. Maybe I have a women's class, I have a men's class, I have healing classes that cycle through 4 weeks of knees and low back and neck and shoulders. I also have, well, I don't call my classes, my beginner classes, I don't call them beginner classes actually. I don't use the word beginner, fundamentals, foundations, introductory, what are some other terms, because everybody now is doing yoga and they don't go to those classes, so I call it Iyengar Ignite. I just, change the word, they don't know, and it's a beginner class. And I do get other people, who come in with their designer sticky mat, water bottle, Lululemon clothes, and they fit right in and they love it actually, and they convert, some of them, as far as I know, they stay. But you have to have these other classes. I have an easy pace Ignite class. You have to have these other classes. I have a 50+ class. You have to have other classes you can direct them to.
I don't think that you can, what Lois did was really beautiful to